Okay, everyone, we'll get started here. Welcome back to the Lunch and Learns. It's fall and education is starting again. So with us today, we have David Marsh from CoreLogics, and he will be discussing the Prospects mobile app. I am Karen Krawczyk, the Member Engagement Coordinator, and this is the first session we are offering for the fall. Please refer to the portal for the upcoming topics. Majority of the Lunch and Learns scheduled for 2023-2024 are a result of suggestions from you. So continue to send them to me, Karen@sra.ca, or call me 306-791-2706. As always, housekeeping notes. First, there is chat available, so please feel free to utilize that during the presentation. We will also have time for a Q&A. You can either unmute yourself and ask or throw them in the chat. This will be recorded and be available on the Learning Hub after the probably tomorrow for any of those who would like to refer to it again, or if there's anyone you know that has missed it. And if you haven't already seen it, take a look at the RMS module that the SRA recently added. I would love to hear your feedback. So today's topic with Dave Marsh of CoreLogic, and he's here to discuss the Prospects mobile app. This is a tool that conveniently puts listings into the palm of your hands whenever you are on the move. This powerful and easy to use app has search tools, live market stats, advanced integrations with Matrix, and comes with an agent branded app for your clients. Prospects Mobile keeps realtors connected with the Saskatchewan Realtors Association and engage with their clients from anywhere on any device. Up to you, Dave.
Thank you very much. Just again, really quickly introduce myself. As was mentioned, my name is Dave Marsh. I'm actually one of the original developers of Matrix, so I'm sure you're all very familiar with that. I've been with the company for about 20 years, going on 20 or 21 years, I guess. So you're all in very good hands, is the bottom line. Of course, today we are going to be speaking primarily about Prospects Mobile, but just so that you're aware, it is somewhat related and integrated with Matrix application as well. But I'll go over all that. So what do we want to do first is just start from square one. Again, for anyone who's not as familiar with what Prospects Mobile is, mentioned, Prospects Mobile is essentially a mobile version, not necessarily of Matrix, but it essentially allows agents to have a little bit more control when they are on the move. So rather than bringing their entire application with them, if they are traveling or somewhere, again, mobile, they have it a lot more conveniently loaded into an app. So that's the Prospects Mobile app, essentially for realtors. And we'll go through essentially all those all the functionality that's associated with that. There's also another version for realtors' clients called Go Agent, and Go Agent is really more for the client to access the properties that their realtor sends them. We're not going to get into that as much as I go through the Prospects Mobile app. It's very, very, very similar to the Go Agent and vice versa. So the functionality that I show you, again, just in the interest of time, the functionality that I show you is very, very comparable for the client. So from a realtor's perspective, if you haven't yet downloaded the app, I think the first thing that I should probably do is go over how to access that. So you see on the left-hand side of the screen here, step one, essentially, is you're going to want to go to your appropriate store. So if you're an Android user, that's going to be Google Play. If you're an iPhone user, it's going to be the App Store. Either one, go into those stores. And then from there, you're just going to do a search for mobile. And then I want to install. And after it's installed, you're just going to open up the application. It's going to take you to the really essentially the configuration. So this is where you're going to choose which system that you're actually trying to access. So in this case, it would be Saskatchewan. And then you're going to choose Saskatchewan. And then finally, you add your username and password, which is going to give you access into Prospects. And if you do this, you're going to, possibly be showing this screen here, promotional screen, and that's it. And so once you're in, and you will see what I have on the right-hand side. And we're going to get into this essentially for the rest of the session. But again, really quickly, I just wanted to show you what the client will see after a realtor sends them really what is an invitation to download the Go Agent app. Now, there's a couple of different ways that clients can actually have access to the Go Agent app. The first one here that I show is optional, because maybe you have a really proactive client that is all gung-ho on downloading it. So they can really just go to their store, the App Store or the Google Play Store, again, depending on their device. They can go in and they can download whichever version that they have, download the Go Agent app. They can do that on their own. Now, they can only get so far by doing that. Because, well, I'll walk you through what's essentially going to happen is they'll download the Go Agent app, and there's a certain point in that app that's going to ask for the realtor's credentials, or really essentially a specific code. And that's as far as they're going to get if they don't have that code. So again, they can go and they can download the app itself, but they can't actually do anything until they actually have the agent's code. So what the preferred method is for the realtor to actually send an invitation to download the app. And that's what we see here. So starting at step number 2, what a realtor is going to do is from Prospects Mobile is they're going to send an invitation. And we'll get into that. I'll show exactly where that is. But they'll send an invitation to their contacts. And if they're not a contact yet, they can just send a random invitation to somebody. Again, maybe they've met somebody on the street. Realtor happens to mention, hey, I'm a real estate agent. The person says, yeah, I'm looking for some property. So they're not yet a contact, but the realtor can still send an invitation to them to download the Go Agent app. And again, I'll show you where that exists back inside of in Prospects Mobile. But once the recipient does receive that invitation, this is what they're going to see. So when they click on a link, it's going to open up in their mobile device, and they'll see the realtor's unique code. Now, this just happens to be my code. So they'll see the realtor's unique code. And then, of course, this is where they're going to select their store. So it's an Apple store, if it's a Google Play Store, they're going to select that from there. And then, of course, that's going to take them right into their store to download the app. So Go Agent install, and then Go Agent open. And then, of course, if they're prompted, and this is where I got back to earlier on where I was saying that maybe they're proactive and they didn't wait for the code. So they'll be prompted here, regardless of which, this is where they'll add the unique code. And again, this is the area that associates them with that particular realtor. So every code is unique. And that's, again, what's going to identify the specific realtor to this person that's downloading the app. And then, of course, they're just going to add their information. So if they're a brand new client, they're just going to add who they are. And that's it. And then they have their app. And again, we're not going to get into the Go Agent app, but really it's essentially just a tool to communicate back and forth with the realtor. So when the realtor does send properties to the client, they can open them up inside of Go Agent. So really just a repository for all of the properties that are sent back and forth. And of course, the client can go in and do their own searches as well.
Dave, I have
We
two
are
quick
going to
questions.
concentrate on Prospects Mobile. So on the right-hand side of the screen, we see Prospects, and I've clearly already logged in. And at the very top, we see what I call the 6-pack. These are really just essentially quick access links to other features inside of Mobile. Most of these are going to seem very familiar to you after I get through the primary functionality. So we'll come back and revisit most of these. Well, we'll go through all of them, but again, most of them are going to seem familiar to you based on what I've already shown. So we're just going to concentrate on the main menu down at the bottom. So of course, the home, we're clearly already on the home page, which is the dashboard, and we'll come back to this in a little bit. Beside that is the search functionality. Now you see right above in the 6-pack, there are a few other search options. We're going to cover those, but the one on the bottom is essentially the primary search. And to be honest, it's the exact same as the map search at the very top. So whether you choose to use the map search in the quick link at the very top, or the search on the bottom in the main menu, they're both the same. So we're just going to choose the one in the main menu, and you can see it automatically populates my my map. Now this is the default. Of course, if I'm looking for properties for a client, I probably am not interested in the default properties that it's showing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to essentially adjust the criteria. So generally speaking, when you are on the road, you're probably going to be looking for properties for a specific client or clients. So of course, you're going to want to go in and you're going to adjust the criteria. So at the very, very top on the right-hand corner, you see something that says filters. That's really just criteria. So filters is just another name for criteria. So of course, if I'm looking for properties for, let's say, my client, Dwayne, I'm going to come up into the filters and add the criteria that Dwayne is looking for. So in this case, let's start with the property type. So maybe Dwayne's looking for, maybe specifically for detached properties, not necessarily looking for everything, just detached properties. So we're going to select detached and we'll apply that. And he's not really so much interested in rental properties. So let's just do sale only. And let's say that Dwayne is looking for properties between, let's say maybe 600,000 and say maybe $800,000. And we'll say 2+ bedrooms and 3+ bathrooms. So again, we're just going to keep this kind of surface level. But if I did want to get into some other criteria, there is more criteria available down in this section here. But again, we're just going to keep it simple and just go with our bedrooms, bathrooms, properties for sale that are residential and detached between $600,000 and $800,000. And you see, I can also search by cities or specific neighborhoods up at the top. Again, we're just going to keep this very, very broad, and there's a reason for that. So I'll show you in a few moments. But if I wanted to narrow it down to specific areas, I could up at the very top. So we're just going to run a search based on this criteria. And we see there are 125 properties. Well, probably more if I zoom out here. But in this case, I'm really just interested in this particular area. So 125 properties that match that criteria. But as I mentioned earlier, there is a very, very, very specific area that Dwayne happens to be interested in, not this entire area that I have currently on my screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the map shape tool. And that's just this little pencil icon here. And that's where I can go and allocate a very, very specific area that Dwayne's looking for. So again, let's just draw maybe that area here. So now we're down to 86 results, which is great. So this is the area that Dwayne's interested in. Now, of course, I didn't spend a lot of time generating these. It was, again, very quick criteria that I threw in. I didn't really spend a lot of time choosing my area, but you may. And if you do spend a lot of time creating this specific search, you probably don't want to have to do that every single time. So what you can do is you can select the Save Search button here, and then just name it. So this is a brand new search, and I'll just call this Dwayne's search, something like that. I'll create that and save it, and we'll come back to that at a later time. But again, I just wanted to impress upon you that if you are doing searches for a specific client, and maybe they're more involved than the one that I just did, you can save them and then come back to those at a later time. All right, so with our 86 properties, what is it that we can do with this? Well, we can actually do a lot. So let's start with generating some stats. So these are just really quick stats. Maybe I want to see the average sale price of those 86 current properties that are on the market. Maybe I want to see how many days on average they are on the market. Maybe I want to see the maybe the average sale price and the average number of days on market for the sold properties, or even for properties that are no longer on the market. In this case, maybe expired. So again, I can run individual stats. So if I wanted to see maybe a breakdown of just the lowest price, if I want to pull that property up, I can see the lowest price one. Maybe I want to see, well, look at this, 0 days on market. So that's telling me that it was, probably sold it was just listed in this case. Or if I want to go to sold, again, if I want to see maybe just 1 day on market sold. So I can pull up individual properties based on my statistic that I'm looking for. If I want to take a look at these properties, maybe in a little bit more detail, I also have a list view or say a gallery view for that. So I can, again, just go through, choose whichever property that I'm interested in exploring in a little bit more detail, which we're going to do in a second. So that's one way to do this. If I want to take any of these, maybe want to add some of those to my favorites for a specific client, if I want to send some of those out, I have all these options up here in the little ellipses right up the very, very top. But again, we're going to explore that coming up in a sec. But what I prefer to do personally is I like to use the map. And the reason why I like to use the map is because I can actually zoom into specific areas. And not only that, if I find a property that I'm interested in, all I have to do is open it up from here. And if I'm not interested in that anymore, again, I can take a look at it in a little bit more detail. But if I'm not so much interested in that, I can just jump around to different properties really easily. In fact, a lot more easily than I could if I was in the list view. So this is just actually just my preferred method. But the bottom line is whether you're using the list view or whether you're using the map view, they're all the same. So maybe this is a property that I want to take a look at and explore in a little bit more detail. So all I have to do, swipe it up. And then, of course, I can take a look at the images individually one by one here, or just select the image, and that opens it up into the image viewer.
Dave?
Hello.
I have a couple questions here. Going back a little bit, the question came up is, can a client only be connected with one realtor?
Yeah, in this app, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What is the login information that they use? Is it the same as the Matrix login for the agent?
Unless it's changed, it is for all of our clients. Unless it's different for yours, I wouldn't expect it to be, but it typically is the same as Matrix.
Okay, and then going back to when the customer downloads the app, you said there was a code that is it that code generated by the app, or is it a code that the realtor generates?
Correct. It's automatically generated by the app, and I'm going to get into that coming up a little bit later as well.
Okay, I think we've answered everything that's there. Okay.
Maybe what I'll do is I'll stop after I finish every section, and I'll just check in with you and see if there's any questions on what I just covered. Perfect. So this is essentially, we're going to take a look and break down the specific property in detail, and essentially really just all the functionality that's associated with this. So we already went over the photo, and then below that, of course, is the property information. So the very first one are comparables. So this is where I choose to find any comparable properties to this specific property. And you see there is some functionality associated with this as well. So in this case, now this is default functionality that's associated. So if I want to find maybe similar properties to this particular one, in this case, plus or minus 30% price range, it's going to find those properties and within a certain distance. And of course, I can change that based on my slider here. And if I do want to use that, again, whichever configuration I use, I just select search, and this is going to find me typically up to 20 properties that are comparable. Now, one thing I like to mention here as well, if you're finding that it's too many properties, or maybe the properties aren't quite what you're looking for, maybe as far as comparable, how comparable they are, again, remember, you still have the filter option up here. So in the same way that I just showed you a few moments ago, what you can do is come in and you can really start to filter out some of the properties that, again, you may not necessarily want to share with the client. So maybe some of them have maybe more bedrooms or bathrooms or whatever other criteria that you want to change on here. Just keep that in mind. You do have the filter option if you do want to filter out some of these properties that were shown. Beside that is the share. So this is where we're actually able to share this particular property with a client. Now, because I'm actually not an agent, you're going to see this come up just a couple of times with the Prospects Mobile. I'm not actually an agent in your system, so I can't actually do what you're able to do, but I'll explain to you what you're able to do. So with the share here, there's a couple of options. You see that I'm able to send this by SMS text or by email. Now, there's another option that I will see because I'm not, but you will see, and that's to message it within the app. And this is what I was saying earlier about the Go Agent app. So your clients will download the app, and then you're able to share this property directly with them. So really, essentially, there's three options. We see two here, but you'll have an additional option to share it in the app. Now, when you do share it in the app, what you're going to do is essentially just select that button that says message. And then message really just means shared in the app. So you'll say message, and then it's going to take you to your client list, which we're going to explore coming up here in a bit. And you're just going to select which client that you want to share it with. And that's really how easy it is. And if they don't yet have the app installed, it will tell you that you can't share it because they don't have the app installed, because Prospects Mobile is smart enough to know that they don't have the app installed yet. So of course you can send that link to them that we talked about earlier. And I'll go over that again, but just the bottom line here is just be aware that there are 3 options available. We only see 2 here. Now, if you already know they don't have the app and they don't necessarily want the app, as I mentioned earlier, you can send it by SMS text and by email. So they'll get to see this property. The only, again, disadvantage of that, I would say, is that they don't have all of the properties in one central repository for them. So that's why it's beneficial for the client to have the app. And then when they want to see the properties that you sent them from Prospects, all they have to do is go to their app and it's got all of them. And they don't have to go scrolling through their email or through their text messages looking for those specific properties. Beside that, we have an add to cart. So again, if you're familiar with Matrix, we have a carts feature that's available. So what you're going to see this a little bit later on, but we sync Prospects Mobile with the Matrix application. So if your client has any carts that have been created for them, then this is an extension of that. So if I wanted to add this property here to a specific client's cart, well, we'll say Dwayne, just as an example, because Dwayne is a client of mine. And you can see from in Matrix, Dwayne has a couple of carts that have been created. One's just a general properties cart, and the other one is maybe some comparable properties. So here, let's add it here, and now it's been added. So now we have this particular property inside of Dwayne's cart. So again, if I were inside of Matrix, I would be able to see that as well because it is synced back and forth. And finally, if I do want to print this off, we're not, of course, going to, but I'll show you what that looks like. So maybe you want to print it off on paper. Maybe you want to just print it off into a PDF if you have that installed, and then that from here. We don't want to wait too much longer, but this will just pull up a little visual of what it will look like. And below that is really just showing you where the property is located on the map. Nothing more, just showing you where it is. And of course, I'm not going to select it because I'm actually in California right now. So if I wanted to find driving directions to that property, I would just select my driving directions, and that would pull up my turn-by-turn driving directions using my default map. And below that, just exploring the property in a little bit more detail with my public remarks, and agent remarks, and again, private notes. Now, these are private notes, as the name suggests. These are private, just for me. So if I say, love this for maybe Dwayne. Now, I already sent it to Dwayne or put it in Dwayne's cart. But if I wanted to, I could just write a little private note for myself. Now, one thing about private notes, what I typically do is when I do write a note, I also favorite it as well. So you notice the little star icon up here. I always favorite it just to, and I'll show you where to access these a little bit later, but I always favorite it just to, again, remind myself that I have a note or something specific about the property that I want to maybe check at a later time. So notes is a good example of that. If I do want to keep track of all of the properties that I have notes on, then I just favorite it. And then again, showing instruction, taxes, fees, listing agent information. Here's some property history information as well. Any additional information about a specific property that you're looking for. And this is a little cost calculator. So we add the default information based on the price and down payment for you to calculate, just again to see whether or not this may or may not be affordable for a client. And so you can run this from within a specific listing. I'll show you a little bit later on as well. There is a dedicated calculator, so it's not necessarily with a specific property, but you can access another calculator, which is the exact same as this, just on its own. All right, were there any questions that that came in for the property?
Nothing pressing right now.
We're good? Okay. All right, so moving on to members. Actually, I'm going to skip over this. Members, normally what you would see there, and again, this is just a filler for me, and I'm going to come back to members later, but this is just a filler for me because, again, I'm not an agent. What I typically see there is message. So this is, as I mentioned to you earlier, because I'm not an agent, I don't actually have the ability to send messages on this particular application because I haven't logged in as an agent, but you will see messages. And this is really just essentially a repository of all of the messages that you sent back and forth for a client. So when you do send something, in this case, if I'd sent something to Dwayne, then I would access all of my really ongoing conversations is really what it is. Just an area that has all of those messages or conversations that you've initiated with your client. And beside that, contacts. So again, this is a collection of contacts in, well, actually not only just in Prospects Mobile, but as I mentioned earlier, with syncing, this is another area that's synced with Matrix. So as you create a contact in Matrix, you'll have that contact and vice versa here inside of Prospects Mobile. So if we want to go in and maybe start a brand new contact, again, maybe I've met somebody on the street, as I mentioned earlier, they're looking for a property. So I can go in and create a brand new contact with them in real time. And again, we're not going to go through all of that right now. I'll just pull up an existing contact, for example, maybe Dwayne. So he's an existing contact, and you can see everything been imported Matrix or is synced with Matrix here as well. So currently, Dwayne doesn't have any favorites or possibilities or discarded from his portal or from his Go Agent app. But if he did, again, I would see those listed here. And you also see on the right-hand side here, messages. Now, again, I don't have messages available for me because I'm not actually an agent. However, if I wanted to see those, it says here, your contact has not installed the branded app. I can at least show you what it looks like. If you did want to share, well, I can almost show you what it looks like. I can partly show you what it looks like. If you want to share the Go Agent app with one of your clients who doesn't have it installed yet. So we can see that here, and I would just share, and then this is where we would share it with them. Now, the only thing that's missing here is my unique number. And again, as I mentioned, because I'm not an agent, I don't have that available, but you will. You'll have your own unique number here that you can share. So that's shared exclusively with that particular client. So how would I send it? Well, I'd send it either by text message or by email. It really depends on how they want to receive it. And then once they receive it, and this is getting back to what we went over here, once they receive it, they're going to select the link, and that's going to take them to this page right here. And then from here, they're going to choose to download Go Agent from the App Store or from the Google Play Store. And then, of course, that's going to be your, well, not this particular one, but you're going to have your own unique number there, which will match the one that is right up here. And that's pretty much it from here. Again, it's really just a repository for all of the information. Anything that you sent to your clients, anything that you've done with your clients from Prospects Mobile can be found on this page here. Any questions about the contacts?
I do have one here, and it says, so the Prospects app and the Go Agent app is a more seamless way for the clients to collect and view all listings that the agent has sent to them, rather than just having the client use realtor.ca and favoriting each property, correct?
Correct. And I'll just maybe expand on that. It's all the properties that a realtor sends them from Prospects Mobile. And I want to make sure that there's a distinction there as well, because we do have the client portal, and that's separate from the client portal. So the bottom line is, if a realtor is sending properties from Matrix to a client, they're going to receive those properties inside of their client portal. And if a realtor is sending properties from Prospects Mobile to a client who has Go Agent downloaded, they're going to receive those properties inside of Go Agent. And again, this is typically around the, so generally generally speaking, if they're on the road and they find some property that goes directly into their their client's GoAgent app.
And
Okay, so
Stephanie said,
next,
thank you for clarifying.
You're welcome. Beside the contacts is a more section. So this is just more of the configuration of the prospects mobile. Starting at the very, very top, start with the save searches. So as we saw earlier on, when I first jumped into prospects mobile, we created a I spelled Dwayne wrong. We created a brand new search for Dway's search, and this is the one that we created. Now, the one thing that I did want to mention here, and we're going to get into this in a few moments as well, is that we have a prospects mobile save searches and we have matrix save searches, and it's kind of a one-way train where it comes with save searches. Any searches that a realtor creates in prospects, of course, will be available for me to use as a realtor back inside of prospects. And that's what we see here. So if I do want to run this search that I created earlier for Dwayne, then I could do that. So this is where I would actually do that from. If I wanted to run a search that I created from inside of Matrix, those will be brought over here as well. So what we'll see here is a list. Now, Dwayne doesn't have any, or I don't have any for any customer back inside of Matrix, but if I did, we would see a collection of those here. So the bottom line is all of the searches that I create inside of Matrix will be available for me to use inside of Prospects Mobile if I choose to want to use them. All of the searches that I create in Prospects Mobile, however, they're not sent back into Matrix. So again, not currently anyway. So it's really just a one-way train as far as the ones that I create inside of Prospects Mobile. So just sort of be aware of that. If you are creating searches inside of Prospects Mobile, you will not see those currently back inside of Matrix. Brand and share. So this is again, this is back to what I was saying earlier about the sharing. This is just an extension of that. This is an area where I'm not able to show you the share part, as I mentioned, because I'm not an agent, but I can, again, just very easily, I can tell you what it's missing. So I'll get to the branding in a second, but this is where you would share the GoAgent application with maybe one of your contacts who's not a contact. So the only thing that's missing here is a share button. So you'll have to just use your imagination or take a look. If you have it downloaded yourself, you'll see a share button on this page. And this works very, very similar to what I showed you earlier when I'm sharing with a specific client. So what I would do here is if I did want to share my GoAgent app, the GoAgent app with a user, again, using that same example, maybe I bump into somebody on the street. They're looking for some properties. All I have to do is come to brand and share, select share, and then of course I'm going to need their email address because I'm going to send it either to email or their phone number so I can text it to them. But one way or the other, I'm going to send them an invitation. And on that invitation is going to have my number. And again, it's not a number that anyone has. It's auto-generated from Prospects Mobile, but all I have to do is select the share button. That's it. Just select share, and then of course it's going to ask me to share it either to an email address or to a phone number. So that's what I'm going to do is add that. But again, it's automatically going to send the unique code, and it's worth going over one more time. When the client receives that email or text message and they select the link, it's going to take them back to here, same place. And then they're going to see my unique code down here, and they're going to choose either the App Store or the Google Play Store to download the app. So that was the share part. And the branding part, this is an area where you can actually brand, you can brand GoAgent if, again, your clients have downloaded it with your unique branding. So if you do have some unique branding, maybe you've got your own brokerage or maybe just your own company branding that you want to use, maybe you just want to use your photo and not necessarily just a specific logo, you can do that from here. So all you have to do is select where it says at the very, very top, please select the logo. And that's what that's going to do is it's connected with your mobile device. So it's just going to go into your photos, and that's where you can choose. Hopefully you have it in your photos. You can go in and you can choose your either your photo, for your logo to use in your branding. Now, below that, you see a few different colors. So these colors are used also in the GoAgent app. So if you don't want to use the default color scheme for your clients, you just want to add a personal touch, then you can use these color schemes to choose what those colors are, right? So all you have to do, again, just select whichever color you want to use, right? Oh, gotta go maybe a little bit darker, something like that. And again, you can choose your own. Now, maybe you're working for a brokerage that has established colors and you don't necessarily want to go through and try to fine tune these 3 different colors, color schemes. What you can do is you can take a look at the presets, and if they are in the presets already, this really just saves you the trouble of having to go through and, as I mentioned, try to customize it yourself. So in this case, maybe it's this particular color scheme you want to use. Now, oops. So maybe it is this particular color scheme you want to use, say Remax, just as an example. You can see it automatically adds your logo and your color scheme, well, the preloaded color schemes for that particular brokerage. So you can just go through and see if your brokerage is there. And if not, feel free to add your own logo and color scheme to that. And then once that's done, you can do a preview, and this will essentially show you different layouts of how this will look. So let's say, for example, you're sending properties to a client. You want to see what it looks like in the email. Well, you can see your logo and your color scheme associated with that as well. And for now, I'm just going to apply that. Now it's been saved. And again, it's worth mentioning again, when your clients do log into their GoAgent app, they'll see your logo and your color scheme if you've set one. Facebook publishing tool. I don't actually have Facebook, so I can't show you this, but I can explain it to you because it's very simple to explain. This is essentially, now you'll need a Facebook business account for this, but what this essentially allows you to do is have your listings automatically managed or uploaded to your Facebook business page. So the great thing about this tool is you don't have to go in and update it manually in case there's maybe a price change. It will do that all for you. So all you have to do is select that, connect it to your business account. It will walk you through. It's just a couple of clicks, and it will walk you through so it's connected to your Facebook, and then you can add your listings from there if you do want to publicize it there. I did talk about the calculator earlier. This is a standalone calculator, very, very similar to what I showed you in the property. So if you have a specific listing, it will automatically fill that information in. But if you just wanted to add your own numbers, see whether or not a property was affordable at maybe specific price points, you can add that in this section here. This is the roster search or the members search. So again, if you do want to go in and take a look at maybe a member in a little bit more detail to get their contact information, or maybe see some of their properties that are currently being marketed. And below that, matrix integrations. So this is where I referred to earlier as far as where matrix is synced. And this is standard, and I'll get to that in a second at the bottom here. But as I mentioned earlier, contacts are synced. So any contact that you create inside of Matrix will be brought over automatically to Prospects Mobile. The client portal, again, as I mentioned earlier, if I have a client that's done some favorites or some maybe discarded or possibilities back inside of their client portal, I'll have access to those in their contact page here inside of Prospects. Safe search, again, as I mentioned earlier, any safe search that you create inside of Prospects Mobile will be available for you in Prospects Mobile. However, if you want to use that search inside of Matrix, you won't see it there because it's exclusive to Prospects Mobile. On the other hand, if you create a safe search inside of Matrix, it will be brought over into Prospects Mobile, so you can use it here. So currently, it's, as I mentioned, just a one-way train. Matrix searches are brought over into Prospects, but the prospects are not currently brought over into Matrix. Carts, again, as I showed you a few moments ago, if you've created a cart or carts for your client back inside of Matrix, then you'll have access to those same carts inside of Prospects Mobile, and vice versa. And again, as I just sort of alluded to, the branding at the bottom, you don't have one home. One home is essentially a client portal. It's just essentially a different integration of the client portal that you're familiar with. So that's not really even relevant, but the important thing is, as far as the branding goes, as I mentioned, your clients do have access to your branding that you've set back inside of GoAgent. Settings. So these are just some personal configuration settings for inside of Prospects Mobile. And again, we don't have the time to go through absolutely everything here, but you can go through and just set, you really just essentially set your Prospects Mobile, however it is that you want to have it set. And of course, how you want to be notified. So if, again, in this case, if I don't want to be notified of new leads, then I can select that off. And the comparables, if you remember, when we were actually taking a look through the properties, I showed you one specific property where we did a search for comparable properties. Well, the default configuration of that comparables search is set here. So if, let's say, for example, I find that I'm going to do comparable property searches. So I'm pulling up properties and I say, hey, I want to do a search for comparables. And I find I'm constantly always rearranging maybe the price range or the distance range. This is where I can come back and I can set the default, so I'm not having to reset it every single time that I want to do a comparable search when I'm looking at properties. So this is really just essentially setting the default that's used in the rest of Prospects Mobile. Technical support, if you do need to reach out for if there's something that's going kind of a little wonky that you notice inside of the app, just like the technical support. And nothing here, you saw this screen earlier, just more of a promotional screen, and some social media and some feedback options and a little help center. Again, if there's something that you're stuck on, you could just go there in the privacy policy. And of course, if you want to log out Prospects Mobile. All right, so heading back to the main dashboard, again, as I mentioned earlier, most of this will seem familiar now that you have a good understanding of what Prospects offers. As I mentioned, the map search is exactly the same as the search that I used earlier. So if, again, you want to do a brand new map search, you can either come down to the main menu or you can go to the quick search in on the dashboard. The advanced search is actually very, very similar, minus the map. So again, just mostly the same fields. So we have the other criteria that you want to use as well. You can search by, of course, postal codes there. So there's a few more fields available for you. So it really depends on what it is that you're looking for, but you do have another option for searching. And as the name suggests, searching by number just allows you to put in different listing numbers here, up to 10 listing numbers to identify specific properties to find. And the saved searches. So this is just really just another area to access quickly to access the safe search searches that you've created inside of Prospects Mobile from here. Below that, my favorites. So again, as I mentioned earlier, the my favorites section is typically, and that's really up for you as a realtor how you want to use it. But I typically use it just if I do want to revisit a specific property and I don't want to lose that property. In the case of the note that I wrote earlier, I will have access to all of those properties here. And just like elsewhere, if I do want to manage any of the pages, as I showed you earlier, there's a little manage option up here. So all I need to do is, if I want to remove them from the favorites, I can send them from here, add them to the carts for whatever reason. So let's remove, maybe I want to move this one and remove this one, right? And beside that, my listing. So this is essentially a collection of your properties. Now, there's not nearly as much functionality to manage those properties from the My List. I'm not an agent. I don't have any properties here. In fact, I'll probably just get some sort of a message that says, yeah. So I don't have anything, but again, you will have access to some configuration, not nearly as much as you have back inside of Matrix, but there will be some a collection essentially of your properties in there. So you'll of course be able to share and such. Below that, we have hot sheets. So again, if you're familiar with the hot sheets back inside of Matrix, then this works very, very similar to those. This is if you're not familiar with what a hot sheet is, a hot sheet's really just a tool that you can use to find maybe any changes in the system, whether that's a status change or maybe a price change. This is going to show you how far back and give you the options, how far back you want to go to see those changes. So you can see we have these quick, really these quick access points at the very top from 1 day to 30 days. Generally speaking, hot sheets are generally for 30 days or less. So if I do want to see activity within a certain time frame, maybe the last 7 days, maybe I've been away from the system for a bit, and I want to see maybe all of the maybe sold properties in a certain location. So again, I can change my locations here. This case, I'm just going to do general. And in this case, we see there's been 91 sold. And again, I didn't check my location, but by default, this would be for the entire system. If I wanted to whittle down to a very specific area, I could have chosen that. But for now, it's really just showing me the properties that have had some sort of change, whether again, you can see a price change or whether it's a status change in a certain property type and in a certain area. And InstaView is really just a tool. It's a more an efficiency tool, really. It's a tool to find you a specific property when you're actually standing in front of that property. Generally speaking, you could find that same property if you're just going to do a map search. But again, for efficiency, if you want to find it very, very quickly, and maybe you're on the street that has the property for sale, and you drive up, you get out of your car and you're standing right in front of that property, just select InstaView and that will take you immediately to it. Apps have some functionality now that, like for example, if you're using your own, whatever app that you're using for your device, sometimes you can actually just select your device app and it will show you exactly where you are. So let's say, just as an example, I want to do something like this. Well, you're going to see here, I'm actually in California, but you can see it pulls it right up. So from there, like I say, you could also use that as well. But the InstaView will actually is really beneficial for realtors because it actually pulls you right into that specific listing without you having to go and search for it. So just again, just a really good tool, efficiency tool that you can use for that. And that's it. So I'm just going to bring that back and see if there's any questions that have come up with anything that I just showed.
I don't see anything so far. I'll give it just another couple of seconds. If anybody has any questions, you can either unmute or put them in the chat. And I think we've got it, Dave.
And just as a reminder.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you to everyone who took the time out of your day to attend. Apologize for a little bit of the audio. There, of course, is a long ways between. Sorry, I have to unspotlight you. There's a long ways between us and you.
And
so,
I was going to mention, just as a reminder, this has been recorded. So yes, if anyone does want to review anything that I may have gone over too quickly, or just want to review for the sake of review, this will be available for you to do that.
Absolutely. So next up on our education schedule is a technical skill builder, which is on September 28th. Greg Reimer from our data team will be helping us to become more familiar with the COMEX platform. You can find the registration on the portal. We also have a coffee and a case study on October 5th with Lynn Chipley, and it's the case of the missing deposit. My next Lunch and Learn is October 11th and will be focused on realtor safety. We have an amazing facilitator, and I think the topic is extremely important. Any questions, concerns, or topic suggestions, please contact me, Karen@sra.ca, or 306-791-2706. Thank you all.
Thank you.